Amy Lowe. I'm a certified divorce financial analyst, and joining me today is Eileen Stoner. Eileen runs the Second Saturday Divorce Workshop for Women in Lake Norman. And I thought over the next few videos together, she could answer some questions that our viewers may have on what a great resource Second Saturday is in our community, and also answer some of the questions that you may have in regards to divorce in general. So Eileen, to get started, thanks for being here, and tell me a little bit about Second Saturday.
Well, thank you, Amy. Second Saturday is just an amazing resource. It is a workshop, and it's a workshop designed for women who are going through the early steps of separation and divorce. And what we know is that divorce is about emotion and money and the law. And so Second Saturday seeks to equip women with information about those aspects of the divorce process. We meet on the second Saturday of each month at the Lake Norman Chamber of Commerce, and we spend about 3 hours together. We'll invite a family lawyer, we invite a counselor, sometimes a licensed marriage and family therapist, and then I serve as the certified divorce financial analyst in the conversation, and we talk about money. So we are not providing specific advice, but we are providing information on those 3 really important elements: the law, managing your emotions, and managing the financial decisions. Second Saturday is a great resource.
It really sounds like it. I do a lot of work with women going through the divorce process, and the main question I get is, should I hire a lawyer? So can you speak to that?
Yeah. Boy, that's a $1 million question. So as I mentioned, we know divorce involves emotion and money, and it does involve the law. And I hate to give you an "it depends" answer, but everyone's situation is unique. Some couples, when they determine that they need to be apart and be divorced, some couples are fairly amicable, and it helps if they're able to sit down and have conversations like you and I are, and kind of go through each of the aspects they need to consider and kind of compromise and give and take. And in a very simple situation like that, where the couple can communicate and they can work through the give and take compromises that are necessary, there are probably couples with simple situations who might find that they're able to work through all these steps themselves. Then there are other couples where the situations are a little bit more complicated.
Right.
So maybe let's talk for a minute about that. So a scenario that may be less complicated could be a marriage that was relatively short in terms of the number of years. There are no children,
Right.
perhaps. There are no significant assets to be divided. There is no significant debt to be divided. So when I say kind of a more simple scenario, if your situation fits in that arena, sometimes those folks are able to gather enough resources and walk through the steps themselves with a good outcome that they are mutually agreeable to.
Right.
But then, more often than not, actually, I know you know this, some circumstances are complicated. And so, for example, if there are young children in the family, now we're suddenly dealing with questions about who will be the custodial parent, how will co-parenting decisions be
Right.
made. We get into conversations about child support. So that adds complexity. I find that more complex situations can sometimes require the need for legal assistance.
I agree.
Yeah. The other thing, and I know you've worked with clients like this. I mean, sometimes the reason they're splitting up is they can't agree on anything. They can't maybe even be in the same room together. And so by that, what I mean are high conflict situations. a high conflict situation where people aren't willing to have a conversation and just simply can't agree on anything, and even to maybe where, there are heated exchanges, it's hard to work out agreements when the temperature of the communication rises to these high levels. That's a more complicated situation. Folks like that, more often than not, might need the help of an attorney, even just to assist with the disclosing of information. When you think about the financial elements of divorce, it's important that both parties share and are truthful and upright about assets that the family owns. Well, if there's someone trying to hide something or they're in terrible conflict, can oftentimes need a lawyer. So those are the kind of things I think about when someone asks me, gee, Eileen, should I consider a lawyer? Is it a simple situation, a short marriage, no children involved, no assets that you disagree about? Or is it a more complicated situation? There are children, there's high conflict. The other more complicated situation I would add as one final point is, as women in finance, Amy and I often see that women abdicate being active participants, right, in the financial affairs of the family. And so we might think about that as a spouse who's a little bit out of the financial loop. I don't say that in any kind of negative way. It's just that's how some couples divide the things they have to take care of.
Women wear a lot of hats, and that's not one that they choose to take on as well. And so it's not uncommon to see that, right?
Right? Sometimes we're so busy with other things. But when I have a conversation with a woman, and through our dialogue, I'm able to ascertain that she really has not been part of the family finances, then my warning flags are raised, and I do think oftentimes that can be a situation because she's a little bit in the dark, where things maybe have been hidden, or maybe she just doesn't have the experience working with those matters to where she could feel comfortable trying to do this herself.
Right.
And then the last point would be, if as a couple, one or the other of you is a business person. So, running a business requires certain relationships with attorneys and CPAs and financial advisors. If one partner has been running a business and the spouse has been more responsible for family matters and doesn't handle the finances, business people typically are pretty savvy. And as a woman, if you are a little bit out of the financial loop and you're up against a spouse who's a business person, oftentimes too I find those situations to be more complex, more fraught with difficulty, and in that case we would seek to secure the services of a lawyer. And I encourage folks who are looking at lawyers to think in terms of what we call cost benefit. What would be the potential cost of an attorney, and what would be the benefits in terms of financial understanding that you might hope to achieve because you've hired the attorney. So we can talk about that, you'd like, another day.
That sounds great. This has been so helpful. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to our next session.